Captain Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance and looked out at the stars. 50 years ago, her grandmother had told her stories about the first time aliens came to Earth. Back then, people were scared. They thought the aliens might want to hurt them or take over their planet. But the Galactic Cooperative had been different. They came in peace. The 12 alien species in the cooperative had welcomed humans like old friends. They shared their technology and helped Earth build better ships and weapons. They taught humans how to travel between stars and find new worlds to live on. Sarah's own ship was proof of how much things had changed. The Defiance was built with both human and alien parts working together. Sarah walked around the bridge and checked on her crew. Lieutenant Marcus Webb was watching the ship's sensors. Dr. Elena Rodriguez was studying data from their latest mission. Everyone looked calm and happy. This was supposed to be an easy trip to Nexus Prime, the capital world of the cooperative. They were bringing reports about the new human colony on Kepler 7. "Captain, we're getting close to Nexus Prime," Webb said. "Should I send our arrival message?" "Go ahead," Sarah told him. She had made this trip many times before. The aliens always treated human visitors well. They gave them good food, comfortable rooms, and listened to their reports with interest, but something felt different this time. Sarah could not explain what it was. Maybe it was the way the alien guards had looked at them when they left Earth, or maybe it was the strange questions the cooperative leaders had asked about human population numbers. The Defiance flew past the outer defense stations around Nexus Prime. Sarah could see the huge alien ships floating in space like metal cities. Some of them were bigger than anything humans had ever built. The cooperative always said they kept these ships here to protect everyone from dangerous enemies. In other parts of the galaxy, "We're getting landing instructions," Webb reported. "They want us to dock at Platform 7. Platform 7 was in the lower section of the space station? Sarah had never been there before. Usually human ships docked at Platform 2, which was closer to the diplomatic areas. She frowned but did not say anything. Maybe they were just trying something new. As the Defiance moved toward the docking platform, Sarah noticed more alien ships than usual, military ships. The kind with big weapons and thick armor. She counted at least 50 of them, all floating in perfect formation around the station. "Dr. Rodriguez, are you picking up any unusual signals?" Sarah asked. Elena looked up from her computer screen. "Actually, yes. There's a lot of encrypted communication going on. Much more than normal, but I can't understand what they're saying." Sarah felt a cold feeling in her stomach. In all her years working with the cooperative, she had never seen them use so much secret communication. They always said they believed in being open and honest with their human partners. The ship docked with a soft bump. Through the windows, Sarah could see alien workers moving around the platform, but they were not the usual dock workers. These aliens wore military uniforms and carried weapons. "Captain," Webb said quietly, "I'm seeing some strange readings on the sensors. It looks like there are scanning beams pointed at our ship." "What kind of scans?" "Deep structure scans. The kind you use to map a ship's weapons and defenses." Sarah's hands formed fists. Why would their allies need to scan their weapons? The cooperative knew everything about human ships already. They had helped design most of them. "Elena, can you try to break into those encrypted signals? I want to know what they're talking about." "I can try, but it might take a while. Their encryption is very advanced. Do it, and do it quietly." For the next hour, Sarah waited while Elena worked on the alien signals. The official greeting party had not arrived yet, which was also strange. Usually, cooperative diplomats met human ships right away. Finally, Elena looked up with a pale face. "Captain, you need to hear this." She played a recording of alien voices speaking in their own language, with a computer translation running underneath. "Harvest protocol preparation is at 90% completion," one voice said. "Human defensive positions on all 6 colony worlds have been mapped and confirmed. Population count is within acceptable range for processing." "What about the home world?" another voice asked. "Earth's orbital defenses have been compromised as planned. Our embedded systems can disable their weapons grid on command. Estimated resistance time is 4 hours maximum. Excellent. And the human ships currently in cooperative space? All tracked and monitored. When harvest protocol begins, none will escape. The humans have served their purpose. Their genetic material and labor capacity will be useful, but their independence is no longer required. Sarah felt like someone had punched her in the stomach. She sat down hard in her captain's chair and tried to understand what she had just heard. For 50 years, humans had trusted the cooperative. They had shared their technology, their locations, their population numbers. They had let alien guards and advisors come to their worlds. They had built their new ships with alien parts that could probably be controlled from a distance. It had all been a lie. The cooperative had never seen humans as partners or friends. They had been preparing to harvest them like farmers harvesting crops. All the help, all the friendship, all the shared technology had been part of a plan to make humans easier to capture and control. "Elena, how long do we have?" Sarah asked. "Based on what I heard, it sounds like they're almost ready. Maybe days, maybe hours." Sarah stood up and walked to the communication station. "Webb, can you send a message to Earth without the aliens?" "Knowing? I can try. But if they're monitoring us like they said, they might detect it. We have to take that risk. Send a priority alert to Earth Defense Command. Tell them the cooperative is planning an attack. Tell them to prepare for betrayal." Webb's fingers flew over the controls. "Message sent, Captain. But I don't know if it got through their jamming systems." Sarah looked out at the alien ships surrounding them. So many weapons pointed at human space. So many years of planning and preparation. The cooperative had been very patient and very clever, but they had made one mistake. They had underestimated what humans do when they discover a betrayal. They thought humans would be easy to surprise and defeat because they were younger and less advanced than other species. They thought humans would panic and give up when faced with superior force. They were about to learn they were wrong. Humans had a saying that the aliens had probably never heard. When someone betrays you, you don't get mad, you get even. And humans were very, very good at getting even. "Elena, keep monitoring their communications. I want to know everything they're planning. Webb, start plotting jump coordinates back to human space. We're leaving as soon as possible." "What about the diplomatic mission?" Webb asked. Sarah looked at the alien military ships one more time. "The diplomatic mission is over. Now we prepare for war." The Defiance began to power up its engines. Around them, the alien ships started to move closer. But Sarah was not afraid anymore. She was angry. And an angry human was something the cooperative had never had to face before. They were about to learn what a mistake that was. The attack began at exactly 0600 Earth Standard Time across all human worlds at once. On Nutera, Colonel Marcus Rodriguez was drinking his morning coffee when the first explosions lit up the sky. The alien peacekeeping base that had protected the colony for 15 years suddenly turned its weapons toward the human settlement. Energy beams cut through the morning air and struck the communication tower, the power plant, and the spaceport. Marcus dropped his coffee cup and ran toward the emergency shelter. Behind him, his house burst into flames as an alien fighter flew overhead. All around the colony, people were screaming and running for cover. The aliens had been living next to them, eating with them, working with them for years. Now they were trying to kill them. "This is Colonel Rodriguez to all units," Marcus shouted into his radio. "We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack. All military personnel report to emergency stations." But most of the human weapons were stored in the central armory, which was now a burning pile of metal. The aliens had known exactly where to hit first. They had planned this attack very carefully. Marcus reached the emergency bunker and found 30 other colonists already there. Some were crying. Others looked shocked and confused. A few were angry like him. "Colonel, what's happening?" asked Dr. Sarah Kim, the colony's chief scientist. "Why are they attacking us?" "I don't know," Marcus lied. He had a pretty good idea why this was happening, but explaining it would not help right now. Right now we need to survive and fight. Back. Fight back with what? Asked Farmer Tom Wilson. They have ships and energy weapons. We have hunting rifles and farming tools. Marcus looked around the bunker. Tom was right. The colonists had no military training and almost no weapons. But they had something else. They knew this planet better than the aliens did. They had lived here for 20 years and learned all. Its secrets. We know the mountain caves, Marcus said. We know the underground rivers. We know where to hide and how to move without being seen. The aliens may have better weapons, but this is our home. Outside, the sounds of battle continued. Marcus could hear alien aircraft flying overhead and human vehicles exploding. But he could also hear something else. Human voices shouting orders and fighting back. On the other side of the galaxy, Dr. Elena Vasquez was working late in her laboratory on Kepler Station when the lights went out. Emergency power kicked in a few seconds later, but by then she could hear weapons fire in the corridors outside. Elena quickly saved all her research files to a portable drive and grabbed her emergency kit. As the head of the station's research department, she knew things that could help other humans survive. But first she had to get the information out. The station's main computer was connected to the quantum communication network that linked all human colonies. If she could reach it, she might be able to warn other worlds about what was happening. Elena opened her laboratory door carefully and looked down the corridor. At the far end, she could see alien soldiers moving from room to room. They were checking each laboratory and office, probably looking for humans to capture. She went the other way, toward the computer center. The station was built like a wheel, with laboratories on the outer ring and important systems in the center. Elena knew the maintenance tunnels that connected different sections. She had used them before when the main corridors were too crowded. Elena crawled through the narrow tunnel for 10 minutes before reaching the computer center. She could hear alien voices on the other side of the wall, but they sounded like they were moving away. She opened the access panel and climbed into the room. The main computer was still running, but warning lights were flashing everywhere. The aliens were trying to shut down the communication system, but the human engineers had built in safeguards that were slowing them down. Elena plugged in her portable drive and started uploading her research files to the network. The data included everything she had learned about alien technology, biology, and weaknesses. Information that could help humans fight back. Upload at 60%, the computer said in a quiet voice. Elena heard footsteps in the corridor outside. The aliens were coming back. Upload at 75%. The footsteps stopped right outside the door. Elena held her breath and tried not to move. Upload at 90%. The door started to open. Elena saw the shadow of an alien soldier with a weapon. Upload complete. Elena smiled as the alien spotted her. The information was now transmitted to every human world that still had working receivers. Even if they captured her, the data would help others survive. On Earth, Admiral James Harrison was in the command center when the first reports started coming in. Red warning lights filled the room as messages arrived from Colony after. Colony New Terra under attack. Estimated enemy force, 200 aircraft and 5,000 ground troops. Kepler Station has gone dark. Last transmission reported boarders in the main corridors. Vega Colony requesting immediate assistance. Alien forces have surrounded the settlement. Harrison watched the tactical display as red symbols appeared over every human world except Earth. The attack was happening everywhere at once. 50 years of planning had led to this moment. Sir, we're detecting movement in the orbital defense platforms, reported Lieutenant Chun. The alien technical advisors are activating some kind of override system. Harrison cursed under his breath. The aliens had helped build those platforms. Of course, they would have hidden ways to control them. How long before they take control of our defenses? Unknown, sir. Our engineers are trying to stop them, but the alien systems are very advanced. What about our fleet? 12 ships are in Earth orbit. Another 8 are at various colonies, probably under attack. The rest are too far away to help. Harrison looked at the display again. 20 ships against the entire galactic cooperative. It was not good odds, but humans had faced worse before. Send the recall signal to all human ships. Emergency jump to Rally Point Delta and activate the Earth Defense Protocol. Sir, the defense protocol has never been tested with a full-scale attack. Today we test it. Across Earth's solar system, hidden weapons platforms that had been built in secret started powering up. The aliens knew about the obvious defenses, but humans had learned to be sneaky over the years. They had built backup systems that the aliens had never seen. Meanwhile, on New Terra, Marcus Rodriguez and his small group of survivors had reached the mountain caves. From their hiding spot, they could see the alien ships landing near the colony. Soldiers were loading captured humans into transport vehicles. How many people do you think they got? Asked Dr. Kim. Too many, Marcus replied. But not all of us, and that's what matters. What do we do now? Marcus checked his rifle and counted his ammunition. 20 rounds. Not much against alien technology, but it would have to do. Now we make them pay for every step they take on? Our world, we hit them when they don't expect it. We make them afraid to leave their ships. We show them that humans don't give up. Tom Wilson laughed, but it was not a happy sound. You really think we can fight them with hunting rifles? The aliens made one big mistake, Marcus said. They think because they have better weapons, they've already won? But wars aren't just about weapons. They're about who wants to win more. And nobody wants to win more than someone fighting for their home. As night fell on New Terra, small groups of human survivors started moving through the darkness. They attacked alien patrols, sabotaged equipment, and rescued captured colonists. The aliens had expected quick victory, but instead they found themselves fighting shadows. On Earth, the battle for the orbital platforms continued. Human engineers worked desperately to regain control while alien systems tried to shut down the defenses. Ships from both sides exchanged fire in the space around the planet, but deep in hidden bunkers, other humans were already planning the next phase. The aliens thought this attack would break human resistance. They thought humans would surrender when faced with superior force. They were about to learn their first lesson about humanity. Humans don't break. They bend, they adapt, and they come back stronger. The harvest had begun, but it was not going according to plan. 5 years had passed since the day the aliens showed their true faces. The galaxy looked very different now. Captain Sarah Chun floated in the command center of Sanctuary Base, hidden deep inside an asteroid field that did not appear on any cooperative maps. Around her, dozens of screens showed the locations of human survivors scattered across dark space. What had once been a proud civilization of 6 billion people was now a network of hidden cells totaling maybe 2 million souls, but those 2 million were not the same humans who had trusted alien friends 5 years ago. Report from Wolverine Cell, said Commander Torres, reading from his communication panel. They successfully raided the cooperative supply depot near Rigel, captured enough weapon components to arm 3 more resistance units. Sarah nodded and made a note on her tactical display. Every small victory mattered now. The humans had learned to think like their enemies, plan like their enemies, and fight like their enemies. But they had kept something the aliens would never understand. They remembered what it felt like to be free. Any word from the Deep Scouts? Sarah asked. The Ghost Team 7 reports successful infiltration of the cooperative database on Nexus Prime, Torres replied. They found something interesting. The 12 species in the cooperative were not always working together. This was news that made Sarah pay attention. Explain. Torres brought up a holographic display showing the cooperative structure. According to the stolen records, only one species really runs things. They call themselves the hegemony. The other 11 species were conquered and absorbed over the past 1,000 years. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, who had escaped from Kepler Station during the attack, looked up from her research terminal. That explains why their technology is so mixed. Different species, different approaches, all forced to work together. It explains more than that, said Sarah. It means the cooperative has the same weakness we do. Not everyone in their empire wants to be there. On the other side of the asteroid field, Colonel Marcus Rodriguez was training a new group of fighters. These were children who had grown up in the Resistance, teenagers who had never known peace with the aliens. They were harder than the colonists Marcus had led on New Terra, and they were very, very angry. "Remember," Marcus told the young soldiers, "alien armor is strong in front but weak at the joints. Their weapons overheat after sustained fire, and they always expect humans to run away. What if we don't want to run away?" asked Jenny Chun, Sarah's niece who had been 12 when the war started. "Then you make them run instead," Marcus replied. With a grim smile, Jenny and the other young fighters practiced with weapons that looked nothing like the guns humans had used before the war. These new weapons were built from captured alien technology, improved with human engineering and powered by human anger. They could punch through alien armor like it was paper, but the weapons were not the Resistance's greatest achievement. That honor belonged to something much more dangerous to the Cooperative. Deep in the research levels of Sanctuary Base, Dr. Lisa Park worked on Project Awakening. She had been studying the captured alien records for 3 years, learning about the species that had been forced into the Cooperative. Each species had once had its own culture, its own government, its own way of life. The hegemony had taken all of that away and replaced it with obedience. The Keth were warriors before they were conquered, Lisa explained to Sarah during their weekly meeting. Their history shows they fought for honor and individual strength. Now they serve as soldiers in cooperative armies, but they have no choice. What about the others? The Zephyrians were traders and explorers. The Vorthan were artists and philosophers. The Nexari were scientists who valued knowledge above everything else. All of them had something taken away when they joined the Cooperative. Sarah studied the files Lisa had compiled. Each species had been forced to give up what made them special. No wonder the Cooperative felt so cold and efficient. It was an empire built on erasing differences. Can we use this information? I think so. If we can remind these species who they used to be, maybe they will remember why they should be free. The plan that grew from this idea was more ambitious than anything the Resistance had attempted before. They called it Operation Prometheus. After the ancient human story about stealing fire from the gods, the Resistance had built new ships during their 5 years in hiding. These vessels looked nothing like the hybrid human-alien designs from before the war. They were purely human, but human engineering had learned from studying captured alien technology for years. The new ships were faster, stealthier, and more dangerous than anything the Cooperative had seen. Captain David Kim commanded the strike ship Retribution as it approached the Keth homeworld of Kethera. His ship was one of 12 vessels, each targeting a different world that had once belonged to one of the conquered species. "Remember the mission," David told his crew. "We hit the military targets, broadcast the historical data, and get out. We're not trying to conquer anything. We're trying to wake people up." The Retribution dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kethera system. Immediately, cooperative patrol ships moved to intercept them. But the human ship was ready for this. "Fire," David ordered. The Retribution's weapons were a surprise to the alien pilots. Instead of the energy beams they expected, the human ship used kinetic projectiles that moved at incredible speed. The metal slugs punched through alien shields like they were not even there. 3 enemy ships down. More incoming. Begin the broadcast. All frequencies. Across the planet below, every communication device suddenly carried the same signal. But it was not in the standard cooperative language. It was in ancient Keth, a language that had been forbidden for 300 years. "People of Kethera," the message said, "you were once warriors who chose your own battles. You fought for honor, for your families, for the right to stand tall. Remember who you were before they told you who to be." On the surface of the planet, a Keth factory worker named Tharkal stopped what he was doing and listened to the strange words. He had heard that language before long ago when his grandfather told him secret stories about the old days. Stories about Keth warriors who bowed to no one. Around him, other Keth workers were stopping too. Some looked confused. Others looked angry. A few looked like they were remembering something they had forgotten. The same scene was happening on 11 other worlds as the resistance ships broadcast their messages. Each message was in the original language of the conquered species. Each message reminded them of what they had lost. On Zephyria, the message spoke of ancient trade routes and the freedom to explore unknown stars. On Vorth, it told stories of artists who painted with light and philosophers who questioned everything. On Nexar, it shared scientific discoveries that had been suppressed by the hegemony. The cooperative's response was swift and brutal. Military ships rushed to each targeted world to stop the broadcasts and hunt down the human vessels. But the humans had planned for this too. As cooperative reinforcements arrived, they found the human ships already gone. But the damage was done. The broadcasts had been heard. The seeds of memory had been planted. In the days that followed, strange things began happening across cooperative space. Keth soldiers started questioning orders. Zephyrian cargo pilots began taking unauthorized detours to explore new systems. Vorthan artists created works that celebrated their old culture instead of cooperative unity. The hegemony tried to stop these incidents with force, but that only made things worse. When they arrested Keth warriors for practicing traditional combat rituals, other Keth became angry. When they destroyed Vorthan art that showed pre-cooperative history, more Vorthans began creating similar works back at Sanctuary Base. Sarah Chun watched the reports coming in from across the galaxy. The Resistance had lost 4 ships during Operation Prometheus, but they had accomplished something much more important. They had cracked the foundation of the cooperative's power. "It's working," Elena reported. "We're seeing civil unrest on 47 worlds. The hegemony is having to pull military units from other duties to maintain order." "Good," Sarah said. "Let them see what happens when they try to rule people who remember they used to be free." Marcus Rodriguez joined them in the command center, still wearing his training gear. "The new recruits are ready for deployment. And we're getting volunteers from some unusual places." "What do you mean?" 3 Keth warriors contacted us through the secret channels. They want to join the resistance. They say fighting the hegemony is the most honorable battle they can imagine. Sarah smiled for the first time in months. The aliens had made another mistake. They thought conquered species would stay conquered forever. They thought people would forget who they used to be if you gave them enough time. They were wrong. People always remember what freedom feels like, even when it's taken away. And humans were very good at helping others remember. The galaxy was burning, and the hegemony was starting to panic. Admiral Sarah Chun stood in the war room aboard the newly built human flagship Defiance II, watching as reports flooded in from across cooperative space. What had started as small acts of rebellion 2 years ago had grown into full-scale revolutions on dozens of worlds. "Kethera has declared independence," reported Commander Torres. "The Keth military units have overthrown their hegemony commanders and seized control of the planetary defense grid. Zephyria is in open revolt," added Dr. Rodriguez. "The entire merchant fleet has joined the rebellion. They're disrupting supply lines across 3 sectors." Sarah nodded as she studied the tactical display. Red markers showed hegemony controlled worlds, blue showed human resistance bases, and green showed worlds that had broken free. There was a lot more green than there had been 6 months ago. What about Vorth? The Vorthan uprising began yesterday. They've taken the capital city and are broadcasting their old poetry and music across the planet. The hegemony garrison is trapped in their compound. It was working better than Sarah had dared to hope. Operation Prometheus had not just reminded the conquered species of their past. It had given them permission to want their freedom back, but the hegemony was not going to give up without a fight. "Incoming priority message from Ghost Team 3, Torres announced. "They've intercepted hegemony military communications." The holographic display changed to show a map of hegemony core worlds. Massive fleet movements were shown with red arrows, all pointing toward the rebel systems. "They're planning something big," Sarah realized. "They're pulling forces from everywhere and massing them for a major offensive. Against which target?" Asked Dr. Rodriguez. The answer came from an unexpected source. Jenny Chun, now a lieutenant in the Resistance Intelligence. Division burst into the war room with a datapad in her hands. "They're not targeting the rebel worlds," she said breathlessly. "They're coming for us, all of them. The entire hegemony fleet is heading for human space." Sarah felt her blood turn cold. "How many ships? Over 2,000? Every capital ship. They have plus support vessels. They're calling it the final solution." The room went quiet as everyone understood what this meant. The hegemony had decided that humans were the real problem. If they could destroy the human resistance, they thought, the other rebellions would collapse without leadership. They might be right. "How long do we have?" Sarah asked. "Based on their current course and speed, they'll reach Earth in 6 days. 6 days to prepare for the largest space battle in human history. 6 days to decide whether humanity would survive as a free species, or be wiped out completely." Sarah looked around the room at her officers and friends. These were people who had lost everything in the first attack 7 years ago, then spent years rebuilding in the darkness between stars. They had fought impossible odds before and won, but this would be different. "Send messages to all resistance." "Shells," Sarah ordered. "Every ship, every fighter, every person who can hold a weapon, we're going home." Across the galaxy, the call went out. Human ships that had been raiding hegemony supply lines turned toward Earth. Resistance bases that had been hidden for years powered up their defense systems. On dozens of rebel worlds, newly freed species received a simple message: humanity needs help. "We stood with you. Will you stand with us?" The response was immediate and overwhelming. Tar Cole, the Keth worker who had remembered his warrior heritage, was now commanding a battle group of Keth ships. "The humans helped us remember who we are," he told his crew. "Now we help them stay." Who they are? Captain Zara Veleth, a Zephyrian trader who had been running supplies to the Resistance, changed course toward Earth with her entire merchant fleet. "They gave us back our freedom to explore," she said. "We will not let them face this alone." On Vorth, the artist-philosophers who had overthrown their hegemony garrison held an emergency council. "The humans lit the fire of revolution in our hearts," declared Master Quintus. "We must ensure that fire continues to burn." Even some of the other conquered species, those who had not yet broken free from hegemony control, began to act. Nexari scientists sabotaged weapon systems. Thermal engineers caused accidents that delayed ship repairs. Hydran medical officers reported false illness rates that kept soldiers out of action. The hegemony found themselves fighting not just the human resistance, but an empire-wide rebellion of unprecedented scale. But their massive fleet continued toward Earth, growing larger, as more ships joined from other sectors. The hegemony commanders knew that if they could crush humanity completely, fear would bring the other species back under control. 4 days before the fleet would arrive, Sarah received an unexpected visitor. A small alien ship requested permission to dock with the Defiance II. The ship's design was unlike anything in the Resistance files. "Unknown vessel, identify yourself," Torres transmitted. "This is Seeker Mindara of the Veil Collective," came the reply in perfect human English. "We wish to speak with the human leaders about a matter of mutual concern." Sarah had never heard of the Veil Collective, but something in the alien's voice made her curious. "Allow them to dock, but keep weapons ready." The alien who came aboard was tall and thin, with silver skin and large black eyes. She moved with a grace that suggested great age and wisdom. "Admiral Chun," Mindara said with a slight bow. "We have been watching your war with great interest." "We're honored," Sarah replied carefully. "But I've never heard of your people. The Veil Collective prefers to remain hidden. We have survived by avoiding the attention of empires like the hegemony, but your actions have changed everything. How so?" Mindara activated a holographic projector that showed the current state of the galaxy. "For 1,000 years, the hegemony has been the dominant power. They crushed all opposition and absorbed all rivals. We thought this would never change." The display zoomed in on the rebel worlds, now glowing bright green. "But you have done something we thought impossible. You have shown that the hegemony can be defeated. More importantly, you have shown other species that they do not have to live as slaves." So you want to join the rebellion? We want to do more than that. We want to share something with you. Something the hegemony has spent centuries trying to hide. The hologram changed to show the internal structure of hegemony space. But instead of the 12 species Sarah knew about, there were dozens of others marked in gray. Extinct species? Sarah asked. Not extinct, hidden. The hegemony did not just conquer 12 species, they conquered 47. The others were deemed too dangerous to absorb, so they were placed in isolated systems and told they were the last of their kind. Sarah stared at the display in shock. 47 species? Species with technologies the hegemony feared. Species with cultural values that could not be crushed. Species like yours, Admiral Chun, species that would never stop fighting for freedom. The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. If those species could be contacted, if they could be convinced to join the fight, why are you telling us this? Because in 3 days, the hegemony fleet will reach Earth. They plan to make an example of humanity that will terrify the galaxy into submission. But if those hidden species were to suddenly appear and join the battle, it would change everything. Sarah finished. Nindara smiled, an expression that looked strange on her alien features. The Veil Collective has been preparing for this moment for centuries. We have ships hidden throughout the galaxy. We have been in secret contact with the isolated species. We have been waiting for someone brave enough to light the fire of revolution. And you think we're that someone? Admiral Chun, you have already proven it. The galaxy is in rebellion because of what you started. The hegemony's empire is cracking. Because you showed others that freedom is possible. Sarah looked at the holographic display again. 47 species, all waiting for a chance to be free? All ready to fight if someone would lead them. What do you need from us? Fight, Nindara said simply. Fight as hard as you can when the hegemony fleet arrives. Show the galaxy that humans do not break, no matter the odds. Give us the signal that the time for hiding is over. And then? Then you will see what happens when 47 enslaved species decide to be free on the same day. Sarah felt a smile spreading across her face. The hegemony thought they were coming to destroy the human resistance. Instead, they were flying into the largest trap in galactic history. Tell your people to be ready, Sarah said. In 3 days, we're going to change the galaxy forever. The trap was set. Now they just had to survive long enough to spring it. The hegemony fleet arrived at Earth looking like a metal storm cloud that covered half the sky. Admiral Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the Defiance II and watched 2,000 enemy ships drop out of hyperspace in perfect formation. She had seen big fleets before, but nothing like this. The hegemony had brought everything they had. Every capital ship, every destroyer, every fighter craft in their empire. They were here to end humanity once and for all. Incoming transmission from the hegemony flagship, reported Commander Torres. Put it on screen. The face that appeared was not one Sarah recognized, but the arrogance in its expression was familiar. This was High Commander Varek, the leader of the hegemony military forces. Humans, Varek said in a cold voice. You have caused enough trouble. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick. Continue to resist, and we will make sure your species suffers for 1,000 years before it dies. Sarah looked at the alien commander for a long moment. Behind him, she could see other hegemony officers, all of them confident that this battle was already won. High Commander Varek, Sarah replied calmly. You came all this way just to threaten us? You could have sent a message. Varek's face showed surprise. He had expected fear, not jokes. This is your final warning, human. Surrender, or face complete destruction. I have a better idea, Sarah said. Why don't you surrender to us? It will save everyone a lot of trouble. The alien commander's expression changed to pure rage. You dare mock the hegemony? We will crush you like insects. You can try, Sarah said, and ended the transmission around Earth, the human defense. Force looked pathetically small compared to the hegemony fleet. 300 ships of various sizes, plus the orbital defense platforms that had been rebuilt and improved over the past 7 years. The humans were outnumbered almost 7-1, but Sarah was not worried. She was excited. "All ships, this is Admiral Chun," she broadcast on the command frequency. "Today we settle an old debt. 7 years ago, these aliens betrayed our trust and tried to harvest us like crops. They thought we would break. They thought we would give up. They thought wrong." Across the human fleet, crews prepared for battle. These were not the same humans who had been caught by surprise 7 years ago. These were veterans who had spent years learning how to fight impossible odds and win. "Remember what we learned in the dark years," Sarah continued. "We are not just fighting for ourselves. We are fighting for everyone who has ever been enslaved by the hegemony. We are fighting for freedom itself." The hegemony fleet began to advance, confident in their overwhelming numbers. Their weapons charged up and their shields activated. Victory seemed certain. That was when the first surprise arrived. "Admiral," Torres called out, "I'm detecting new contacts coming out of hyperspace. Multiple ships, unknown configuration." On the tactical display, new symbols appeared behind the hegemony fleet. Ships with designs that did not match any known species. They were sleek and fast, and there were a lot of them. "This is Seeker Mindara of the Veil Collective," came a transmission on all frequencies. "The age of hiding is over. Today we stand with humanity and all free peoples." More ships kept appearing. Dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. The Veil Collective had been preparing for this moment for centuries, and they had built an impressive fleet. But that was just the beginning. "More contacts," Torres reported, his voice filled with amazement. "Ships from the rebel worlds. Keth battle groups, Zephyrian merchant fleets, Vorthan art ships converted to warships." Sarah smiled as she watched the tactical display fill with friendly contacts. The species that had broken free from hegemony control were keeping their promise. They had come to help humanity in its darkest hour. Tharkal's voice came over the communication system. "Warriors of Earth, this is Fleet Commander Tharkal of the Free Keth. We stand with you in battle, as you stood with us in revolution." "Captain." Zara Velith added her own message. "Explorers of humanity, this is the Zephyrian Free Fleet. Today we explore the possibility of a galaxy without tyrants." Even the Vorthans had sent ships, though theirs looked more like flying sculptures than warships. "Children of Earth," came their poetic transmission. "Today we paint the stars with freedom." The hegemony fleet had stopped advancing. "High Commander." Varric was probably trying to figure out how his easy victory had suddenly become a fair fight, but Sarah was not done with surprises. "Admiral," Torres said, his voice barely a whisper, "you need to see this." The tactical display zoomed out to show the entire solar system. And from every direction, new fleets were arriving. Ships with designs that no one had seen before. Technologies that looked ancient and powerful. Species that had been thought extinct for centuries. "This is the combined fleet of the hidden worlds," came a transmission in dozens of different languages, all translated into human English. "For too long we have lived in exile, told we were the last of our kinds. Today we reclaim our place in the galaxy, 47 species. Just as Mindara had promised. All of them bringing their best ships and their deepest anger at centuries of oppression. The hegemony fleet was now surrounded by enemies on all sides. What had been a 7-1 advantage had become a 3-1 disadvantage. And the odds were still getting worse as more ships continued to arrive. "All allied forces," Sarah broadcast. "This is Admiral Chung. Welcome to the party. Let's show the hegemony what happens when free people fight together." The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The hegemony ships fought with the desperation of tyrants who knew their empire was ending. They had superior weapons and stronger shields, but they were facing technologies from 47 different species, each with their own approach to warfare. The Keth attacked with honorable fury, their ships charging straight into enemy formations. Zephyrians used hit-and-run tactics, appearing from nowhere to strike and vanish. The Vorthans somehow made their arch ships dance between enemy fire like they were performing a ballet, and the Hidden World species brought weapons that the hegemony had forgotten existed. Energy technologies that could drain power from enemy ships, gravity weapons that could crush hulls like paper, temporal devices that made enemy missiles explode before they were fired. In the middle of it all, the human ships fought with the controlled fury that had made them legendary. They used every trick they had learned during 7 years of resistance warfare. They struck at weak points, exploited enemy mistakes, and never gave up no matter how bad things looked. Sarah watched from the bridge as the hegemony formations began to break apart. Their perfect military discipline was cracking under pressure from too many different types of attacks. The enemy flagship is trying to retreat, Torres reported. Not today, Sarah replied. Pursuit course. Maximum speed. The Defiance II and a dozen other human ships chased the hegemony flagship toward the edge of the solar system. They caught up just as High Commander Varek was trying to jump to hyperspace. This is Admiral Chun to High Commander Varek, Sarah transmitted. Going somewhere? The alien's face appeared on screen again, but now he looked desperate instead of arrogant. This changes nothing. The hegemony will return. We will rebuild. We will crush you all. No, Sarah said quietly, you won't. Because we're not going to give you the chance. The combined firepower of the human pursuit ships overwhelmed the flagship's defenses. High Commander Varek had just enough time to look, surprised, before his ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light all across the battlefield. The remaining hegemony ships were surrendering or being destroyed. The empire that had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years was ending in a single day. As the last enemy ship powered down its weapons, Sarah opened a channel to all allied forces. People of the galaxy, she said, today we have won more than a battle. We have won back our freedom. The hegemony told us we were weak, that we would never be more than slaves or livestock. They were wrong. She paused and looked out at the stars, where ships from 50 different species floated together in victory. They thought we'd never recover from their betrayal. They forgot who we are. We are the species that never gives up. We are the people who light fires of hope in the darkness. We are the ones who remind others what freedom feels like. Sarah smiled as cheers came over the communication channels in dozens of languages. Today we start building a new galaxy. A galaxy where no one rules over anyone else. A galaxy where every species can choose its own path. A galaxy where the word harvest means growing food, not enslaving people. In the years that followed, historians would call it the Liberation War. Poets would sing songs about the Day 47. Hidden species revealed themselves to fight beside humanity. Children would learn about the moment when the galaxy remembered what freedom meant, but Sarah Chun would always remember it as the day humanity kept a promise. The promise that no one would ever again have to face oppression alone. They had thought humans would never recover from betrayal. They had forgotten that humans never forget who their friends are, and they never abandon anyone who needs help becoming free.